This article went over the effects of training attention to acoustic cues, reflected on by Emily and Brianna. This study was interested in acoustic cues and how we learn to perceive them. We can use selective attention to learn phonetically relevant cues. By using selective attention, we can train participants to perceive different acoustic cues than what they have already learned. This information is very useful in learning a second language because different languages have different acoustic cues. The research question that was proposed is, can listeners be trained to shift their attention to different acoustic cues by using categorical feedback, which would be like a correct and incorrect answer. A secondary question was if their training would generalize to a new stimulus. They hypothesized that training with categorical feedback will shift listeners' attention from one cue to another, and it will generalize to new phonetic cues. The population of the study used 36 undergraduate and graduate students aged 18 to 35 with no speech or hearing differences. They were only needed for a total of 3 hours, one per day for training. They were given $20 for their participation. The two cues that were studied were the change of formant transitions between consonantal release following a vowel and the shape of the frequency at burst onset. This study split the participants into two groups. One was trained for formant cues and the other was trained for onset cues. During training, participants received visual and auditory feedback. The study used varying combinations of B, D, and G with A, I, and U, and the U was used for the generalization set. This chart breaks down what the participants did each day. Day 1, the participants took a pretest and did an hour of training. The pretest asked to categorize synthetic speech sounds into phonetic categories. The training was a categorical level feedback with no instruction as to what cue to listen to. It was designed to bias attention toward one cue. Day 2, participants were only trained, and Day 3, participants were trained and then took a post-test, which was a repeat identification task with the train and the novel stimuli, which is the U.
There were multiple major findings in this study. The first one being that adults can learn to shift their attention between different acoustic cues, like the formant transitions and the burst cues, using only category-level feedback. Therefore, their hypothesis is supported. The formant trained group showed greater improvement in accuracy in learning to pay attention to formant cues than the burst trained group did with their cues. The burst group was less successful because the burst sounds are very quick and hard for listeners to pick up on. After 3 days of training, both groups were tested on a new vowel to see if their learning had carried over. Even though the formant group performed better overall, the burst trained group's learning transferred slightly more when given the new vowel. These results show that phonetic learning, or learning how to tell speech sounds apart, isn't just about being exposed to a language or hearing it a lot. Instead, it's about actively learning to pay attention to the right parts of the sound. In this study, adults learned to shift what they focused on just by getting feedback about whether their answers were right or wrong. That means that people can retrain how they listen, even later on in life, and this helps explain how we adapt new accents, languages, or speakers throughout our experiences and feedback, not just exposure. These results are especially important for second language learning. When people learn a new language, they often struggle to hear sound differences that don't exist in their native language. This study shows that adults can retrain their listening by shifting their focus to new acoustic cues, not just by hearing the language more. So second language learners can actually improve their pronunciation and listening through targeted feedback and training. These findings also connect to speech therapy and audiology, where helping clients learn what to listen for can improve speech perception and production. Overall, it proves that adults can adapt to how they hear, which is super encouraging for anyone learning a new language or working on speech skills.